Good morning, second graders. Today we're going to be having our lesson on web accessibility. So, web accessibility is the ability for all people to use or have access to a web page. It supports the inclusion for people with disabilities as well as other people such as the elderly, people from rural areas, and people from developing countries that may not have quick internet access like we do. So basically, the reason we need accessibility is because everyone should be able to understand and interact with and use and contribute to different web pages. It shouldn't matter if the person has disabilities that might impair their vision or their physical coordination or their ability to hear or speak. Everyone should be able to access the internet and have the resources that we all have in order to learn and to use social media and just to really interact with the web the way we do so often. So a lot of sites don't really have good accessibility. They have a lot of barriers that make it difficult for other people to use the web. Now, this isn't really cool because the web should be flexible and it should be easy for people to meet their needs. So you should care because, well, first of all, it's the law and we don't want to be lawbreakers. Now, I don't mean to say that you're going to have a big ticket or you're going to go to jail if you don't have accessibility in your websites for people who maybe are blind or they can't hear. But you should care because it's important for big corporations and big maybe websites that people in politics or some like federal agencies use. It's really important for them to have accessibility and have options for maybe reading the text on the screen aloud or making the text bigger. That way people, no matter what they're struggling with, can read different forms or different information that they have to get from the internet. So now if those kinds of corporations don't have accessibility, then they're breaking the law. So that's why it's a law. So it's there to basically make sure that everyone is able to have equal access and equal opportunities to access information on the web. So let's take a look at this jungle gym. So imagine if you wanted to play on this jungle gym, but maybe you fell down and broke your leg, or maybe you think it's kind of scary to get up a certain way. Well, if you look around, there are lots of different ways to get on this jungle gym. So for me, maybe my favorite way would be to climb up this little ladder and slide on in that way, through that entrance. But you might think that's scary. So you might want to come over this little bridge and climb over into the other side of the slide. But maybe you think that's scary too, or maybe those just aren't your favorite choices and you would rather come in this way, up the little ramp. This is really cool because then we'd all be happy. We all get to have our favorite choices met. We all get to have different ways to come to access the jungle gym. So the same should be said for accessing the internet. We need to all have equal opportunities. And really, it ends up benefiting everyone. So some ways that we have accessibility options are, I'm sure most of you guys have used an iPhone before. Maybe your parents or your siblings or someone in your family, I'm sure, has had an iPhone or an iPad, or some sort of iPhone that you've been able to use. So if you look at the picture, it has different accessibility options. It says you can turn on the voiceover, you can turn on the zoom, you can instead of reading a screen and having black writing with a white background, you can actually flip it and have white writing on a black background. So those are all important for different reasons. Maybe you're blind, so you can't see what you're typing into the phone. So you can just have the Turn VoiceOver app on, and all you have to do is it's kind of like when you're using Siri. You click on the box and you just say what you want to happen, and voila, it shows up and it automatically searches for you. Or maybe you have trouble with your vision and you can't really see well, so you can turn the zoom on, and all you have to do is use your fingers and zoom in on a certain part of the text that you want to see, and it makes it so much easier for you to read. Or maybe you're colorblind, or you have trouble seeing different colors, or so it might be easier for you to read the white writing on a black background instead of reading the black writing on a white background like we traditionally do. So these are all different options that benefit you and everyone else, just like the options on our Jungle Gym, whether you like the first, second, or third one. So here are some web accessibility tips that you guys can use as second graders. So the first one you can use is clear format. If you're looking at this slide, it's really easy to see. You see that the title's on top, and then you have 5 clear tips. They're all spread out. Your eye can follow them easily from step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's really straightforward and easy to understand. Also, the font is really easy to read. It's not some crazy writing that you can barely make out. It's pretty straightforward. It's really simple to understand. It's easy to read. Also, tip number 3, the font size is big. It's not super small, so you don't have to squint to see it. It's not too big where it's taking up too much room, but it's a pretty good size. You can look up and you can easily read what it says no matter where you are in the room. And tip number 4, it uses colors that are easy to see. The colors are neat, they go together. It's easy to see the black on that kind of like that sandy color background. It stands out. It's really easy to see. The colors don't blend together. And also, there's clear audio. You can hear what I'm saying. You can understand what I'm saying. I'm not kind of mumbling my words. I'm not speaking so slow. No, you don't understand that, right? I'm not mumbling. I'm not speaking really quietly. I'm speaking at a good volume. You can hear what I'm saying, and it's really easy to understand me. So this is a really good example of how you might want to set something up. Now, here is an example of something you wouldn't want to see. Holy smokes. So this is that same slide that you guys saw before, but really the only clear thing is the top title. Once you start looking at the bottom, you see that it's not really a clear format. Your eye doesn't really know where to look. There's so much going on. You have pictures facing different ways, and you have different fonts, and oh my goodness, it's so crazy. There's no clear format. Your eyes just kind of want to go everywhere. They can't focus on one thing. It's hard to focus on one thing. You really have to think about it. Also, there isn't a simple font. So if you notice, the font is all curly and it's not as easy to read. Maybe if you made it bigger, it might be a little bit easier, but it's not the easiest font to read. If you read at the top where it says Web Accessibility Tips, that's easy to read. The curly font, it's pretty, it's girly, it's fun, but it's not really super simple to read. And so you don't really want that in your web, because when you're presenting something, because you want people to be able to understand and see what you're saying clearly. Also, the font size isn't really too readable. Like I said, with this particular font, you'd want it to be bigger for it to be easier and clearer to read, because all the curlies make it kind of squish together and make it harder to read. Also, we did not use colors that were easy to see. The colors might be some of my favorite colors, but they don't really go well together on this particular slide. It's really hard to read them because you have too many colors on top of each other, and they kind of just blend in together. They don't stand out. So if you look at the top half where our title is, the web accessibility tips, really that black stands out on that white really, really well, and that white pops on the blue background. Now on the bottom half, it's kind of all running together and doesn't really look too great. And then audio, I gave you guys examples previously about you don't want to mumble, you want to speak loudly, you don't want to speak too softly, you want people to be able to hear you and understand what you're saying no matter where they're sitting in the room. So this is an example of what not to do. Keep it that clear format with a simple font that's readable, use colors that are easy to see, and clear, understandable audio. So now that you guys have these wonderful tips in hand, here is your job. Your job is going to be to create a cover, a brand new cover for your favorite book. Now you can make this cover either digitally using the computer, or you can draw it out by hand, whichever you think would look the best and the most neat. When your book cover is finished, you're going to present that to the class. So you'll explain to us why you chose the book, why you chose that particular picture, why did you want to put that image on the cover, and give us a few sentences about why we should read that story. Why is it so good? And the big important details of this assignment are to make sure that you follow all the tips for making it accessible. So remember, those 5 tips were the clear format, make it easy for us to see, easy for us to follow, make it a simple font like this one, something easy to read, make sure the font size is readable, make sure you're using colors that are easy to see, don't just pick your favorite colors or a font that's really pretty. Pick something that we're really going to be able to see and read clearly. And also, lastly, while you're giving your presentation, make sure that you have that clear voice. Make sure we're all able to hear you, we're able to understand you. Maybe practice what you're going to say a few times so you're not standing up there going, So no, make sure you have it all in your mind, ready to go. So this is going to be your job, your assignment that you're going to do. And finally, before we break off to start working on our assignment, we're going to test your knowledge. So you can click on this link and go ahead and take a quiz about your web accessibility knowledge. All right, good luck, guys. Let's get to work.